Hi, this is Dustin with Dustin's Dollars. Today I'm going to be talking about Knightscope, specifically about a couple of the Knightscope's first institutional purchases, at least as a publicly listed company that I've been able to find. Before I begin, let me remind you that I am not a financial advisor or a financial professional of any sort. All opinions that I express in this video are mine and do not represent those of any company or any other individual. I currently hold a long position in Knightscope, so this video should be for your entertainment purposes only. Because I could be wrong about everything I say in this video, you need to do your own research before making any investment decisions. So, Knightscope, obviously not doing so hot in the market, but as I've mentioned before, the volume has been super low. So I was actually surprised recently when I saw that there had been a couple of institutional purchases, although they are very small, as I will get into in just a minute. And let me also clarify that institutional purchases, right? This does not change the fundamentals of a company. Wow, yeah, they're small. They're small. Don't get too excited. Jay says, "Wow, that there have been institutional purchases, but they're tiny, right?" And that's what I want to get into. This is currently about 0.34% or 0.33% of the total shares are held by institutions, which is again minuscule. It's so tiny. However, it was interesting that they actually have had some funds that have bought into it, and it's none of the funds that I expect will buy into it, at least in some portion, which I will get into in a couple of minutes. But this is what they have listed on Yahoo. These are the top institutional holders, and these all you can see these were all reported for the end of Q1, and they I think have 45 days or so to actually report that. That's why these just came out in mid-May. And there's a website that I use called WhaleWisdom.com that has this, and it will list out all of them here. And so there are 15 institutional holders, 15 13F filers is what I would say. And in total they hold 118, almost 118.4 thousand shares. And they compute that as 0.5% of the ownership of the company. I think that maybe that's 0.5% of the Class A's. I think on a fully diluted basis, that's more like 0.2% of the company because of all those other shares, the Class B's and the preferreds. But they have the actual list of them somewhere. Yeah, right here. So you can see these are the largest holders, institutional holders of Knightscope stock. And you can see they're not huge positions, right? This is the largest is $200,000 and on down, right? And that is as reported, right? I think that position would be worth even less today. That'd be more like $120,000 today because I think they are using the price at the end of the quarter as reported. So you can see 200,000, 90,000, 84,000. So these are tiny institutional purchases. And I actually looked up a couple of these top holders, and these funds are running billions of dollars. So 200,000 is like nothing to these guys. And I looked up a little bit. You can see they hold tons and tons. This is, I think, the filing. I think I grabbed the first the largest filers here and just looked at it, and you can see here's the actual filing for that one, right? They hold 39,921 shares. But I'm just going to scroll through and you can see they hold so many different companies. They hold, I'm not sure if this was one where they hold calls and puts as well, but they're obviously running some algorithm. I shouldn't say obviously, but I assume they're running some sort of an algorithm where they're hedging, they're doing some numbers-based yeah, you can see that they have calls and puts in here for different things. So I'm not reading too much into it that these funds are actually long on Knightscope. But the interesting thing is, even if they're not like, hey, holding this, they're going to hold it for a long time, getting more volume and more just more demand for the shares to use in their strategies is still at least a tiny positive in that it locks up some of the shares at least for some amount of time. It's more of a technical thing. Again, it doesn't change the fundamentals of the company. But it's interesting because it's already so illiquid, right? We see this volume. I've mentioned this before, that the volume is like 200,000 shares per day. It's tiny. And as we see that volume even get, sort of stay small, if some of the shares are locked up in some of these strategies and we start to see news, there's a potential, I think, for some spikes up, like we saw in the IPO when there is real news, that the liquidity just is like tiny. So I think that's it's just interesting to me. And I did scroll through a couple of the other large holders, 13Fs, they're holding tons and tons of shares here. So just to confirm, they're all here. Again, I didn't look through every single one of them, but all of these they're holding, let's say, over 1,000 stocks, it looks like. Now, one other interesting thing is when I scroll through this list, I do see a couple banks, Bank of Montreal, PNC, PPAC, Gladstone Financial Corp. I think that's a bank as well, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo. However, what's conspicuously missing here is what I've called out in the past are a couple funds that I think will be buying into this. The most notorious would be Vanguard, right? Vanguard's total market fund. They did not hold it. This confirmed it. Like their website suggested that they didn't, because they do have a list of holdings there. And now I see this, confirmed with the SEC filing. They did not hold it at the end of the quarter. Sooner or later, I have to imagine that they are going to hold Knightscope stock because it is part of the stock market. And there are a couple other funds like that where, they just are based on set criteria, right? For Vanguard, it's the whole market. I think there's some others that might track, like maybe micro cap stocks, those sorts of things where it may not be a huge position, but they are, I assume, in the future going to buy these and then just hold the shares. And so that I think, and I've mentioned it before, but I still maintain that I think that's going to be a future sort of technical based catalyst for the stock where they are going to buy the shares and then just hold them. But this at least tells me that, there's not something weird about Knightscope where institutions, can't hold it can't hold it for a period of time because of the way that they did their listing. They're here, we see proof of some institutions holding it. So that is really all that I had to go over today. I know it's not that much, but I found it interesting that we see some institutions that are actually holding Knightscope stock now. So it's not just us retail investors. And I'm going to be tracking this over time and seeing how this grows. Like I say, I think right now there's about 0.2% of the fully diluted share count of the company. Maybe it's, closer to 0.5% of the actual outstanding Class A's as computed by these websites. I didn't actually do the calculation myself, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that changes over time. So I don't know if you had anything else, Jay, if you're still there on the chat. Doesn't always show me if you had anything else to comment or any other questions or anything you want to chat about. But if not, I'll be monitoring that while I wrap up here and just say that if anyone else is watching this, you're still watching, I do these videos usually around 9, 10, 11 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. So if you're ever interested and want to hop on and chat with me on a video, I would be more than happy to have you on in the chat and see what you have to say and get some feedback. Let's see. Jay has not said anything else yet. I think there is a bit of a delay. So I'll give it just another couple seconds, but otherwise I will probably hop off here real soon. All right. I don't see anything, so Jay must have hopped off. Thank you very much for watching and have a good one.